There's a psychological paradox that Niccolo Machiavelli identified more than 500 years ago in the royal courts of Europe, and it remains strikingly relevant even today. It's a paradox that explains why certain men effortlessly draw attention, respect, and desire, while others, despite good intentions, are consistently overlooked or relegated to the friend zone. The paradox itself is easy to describe, but difficult to accept. Women are not attracted to what you do for them. They are drawn to who you are without them. And today, I'm going to break down 7 psychological principles rooted in Machiavellian thinking that can turn an ordinary man into a magnetic presence. But a warning, the 7th principle is so counterintuitive, so contrary to everything you've likely been taught, that it may make you uncomfortable. That discomfort is precisely why it works. Stay until the end, because that final principle is the one that changes everything. Before we begin, there's something important to mention. The data on this channel reveals an interesting pattern. Thousands of you watch these videos all the way through, mentally take notes, and likely apply these ideas in your lives, yet leave no trace behind. No like, no comment, no subscription. If this content genuinely adds value, if these psychological insights are improving your interactions, take 3 seconds right now to like the video and subscribe to the channel. Why does this matter? Because YouTube's algorithm runs on a simple rule. Engagement expands reach. Every like, every comment, every subscription sends a signal that helps this knowledge reach more men who need it. This isn't just about building a channel. It's about building a community of men who reject mediocrity and understand the real dynamics of attraction. Show your presence. Act now, and let's explore together these 7 principles that will redefine how you approach relationships. Niccolo Machiavelli wrote in The Prince that men tend to judge more with their eyes than with their hands, because everyone can see, but very few can truly feel. What he meant is this: social appearances are a performance, a stage, a kind of theater. The truth reveals itself in what people do when they believe no one is watching. When applied to attraction, this idea uncovers something essential. There is often a gap between what women consciously say they want and what their deeper psychology actually responds to. Not because of hypocrisy, but because attraction isn't rational. It's visceral, instinctive, shaped by millions of years of evolution. And the man who understands this difference, who learns to communicate in the language of genuine attraction rather than shallow social expectations, is the one who achieves results others can't even imagine. Principle 1. Independent wholeness. This first principle is the foundation for everything that follows, and it's the one most men violate daily without realizing it. You need to be psychologically complete before pursuing a relationship. Not nearly complete, not 80% complete, fully complete. What does that actually mean? It means your happiness, your purpose, your sense of self-worth cannot depend on female validation. Because the moment a woman senses that you need her to feel whole, something instinctive shuts down within her. Why? Because evolution has wired women to seek men who can offer stability, security, and protection. A man who relies on her for completeness cannot provide those things. Psychologically, he becomes like a child searching for a mother, not an equal partner. In real life, this looks like the incomplete man dropping important plans the second she's available. He checks his phone constantly, waiting for her reply. His mood rises and falls based on their interactions. He sacrifices friendships, passions, and ambitions just to maximize time with her. The complete man is different. His life was already functioning before she arrived. He has strong friendships, passions that energize him, goals that push him forward. She doesn't step into a void. She steps into a life already in motion. And a life in motion is magnetic. Now she's not asking, does he like me? She's wondering, can I become part of this? The power dynamic shifts entirely, and that shift changes everything. So how do you build this sense of completeness? You can't fake it. You need to genuinely create a life that fulfills you. Identify 3 areas that truly excite you, not what impresses others, but what energizes you when no one is watching. It could be martial arts, building a business, mastering an instrument, or sculpting your body. The specifics don't matter. What matters is that these pursuits exist independently of any relationship. They become your anchor, your identity, your foundation. When you're truly grounded in them, something interesting happens. You stop chasing women, not as a tactic, but because you're genuinely absorbed in something greater. And that absorption is one of the strongest attraction signals you can emit. Principle 2. Polarizing authenticity. This second principle runs counter to everything modern society teaches. You're told to be agreeable, avoid conflict, and please everyone. That is the fastest route to becoming invisible. Machiavelli understood that the man who tries to please everyone ultimately pleases no one. When you smooth out your edges, hide strong opinions, and make yourself harmless, you also become bland, forgettable, and without character. Why is this attractive?
Because in a world where most people wear social masks and carefully filter every word, the man who dares to be fully himself stands out as something rare. Women aren't searching for perfection, they're searching for something real. They want to see who you actually are, not the softened version you present just to gain approval. Ironically, by revealing your true self, including your less popular views, you create deeper connections with those who genuinely resonate with you. For example, in conversation, most men agree with everything a woman says. They avoid disagreement and sacrifice their own perspective to maintain superficial harmony. They think this builds connection, but it actually creates boredom. The authentically polarizing man, when he disagrees, expresses it calmly and honestly, not to provoke, but because it reflects his truth. I understand your perspective, but I see it differently, and here's why. That ability to hold his ground creates respect, tension, and interest. This doesn't mean being argumentative for the sake of it. It means having emotional and intellectual backbone, knowing who you are, what you stand for, and refusing to dilute yourself for approval. Yes, some women will reject you. That's fine. The ones who stay are the ones with which something real can be built. The rest would have only wasted your time. Principle 3. Calibrated presence. The third principle revolves around something very few men truly master, the art of calibrated presence. Most men operate at extremes. They're either completely absent, cold, distant, unavailable, or they're overly present, always available, almost suffocating. Both extremes destroy attraction. Absence signals disinterest. Constant availability signals desperation. Calibrated presence is about balance. Machiavelli understood that power often lies in controlled unpredictability, not chaos, but strategic variation that keeps others attentive. In relationships, this means your availability, both emotional and physical, should naturally fluctuate based on your real life. When you're focused on an important project, you'll naturally have less time. Your responses are slower, your interactions shorter. This isn't a tactic, it's reality. When that phase ends, you have more space. You become more present, more engaged. This natural variation creates something powerful. It prevents the relationship from becoming predictable and routine. It keeps things alive and dynamic, making your presence more valuable because it's not constant. But here's the crucial point. This must be authentic. If you pretend to be busy while doing nothing, she'll feel it. Women are highly attuned to authenticity and can sense manipulation easily. That's why the first principle matters so much. When you genuinely have a full life, your availability will vary naturally. You won't need to play games. Your reality will create the dynamic for you. In practice, sometimes you're deeply engaged, asking meaningful questions, listening attentively, building emotional connection. Other times you're more brief and focused elsewhere. This variation creates what psychologists call intermittent reinforcement, the same mechanism behind addictive behaviors. The reward isn't constant, it's variable, which keeps engagement high. Still, use this with integrity. Don't turn it into manipulation. Let your real life drive the rhythm. Principle 4. The unshakable standard. This is where many men start to feel uncomfortable, because it demands something modern society often discourages, having high standards and enforcing them firmly. Most men don't have real standards. They have vague preferences that disappear the moment they receive attention. They tolerate behavior they dislike, excuse obvious red flags, and sacrifice their own needs just to keep a relationship alive. Why? Fear of loneliness, fear of not finding someone better, a belief that they don't deserve more. That fear weakens them, turning them into diminished versions of themselves. An unshakable standard means clearly knowing what you accept and what you don't, and acting when boundaries are crossed, not with anger or drama, but with clarity and firmness. Why is this attractive? Because in this context, it translates to this. It's better to be respected than adored. Respect sustains attraction. Adoration without respect leads to contempt. In real life, if she disrespects you, you don't ignore it to keep peace. You address it calmly. That doesn't work for me. I prefer we handle things differently. If it continues, you reduce your investment. Less time, less energy, less attention. If it still doesn't change, you leave. No begging, no endless chances. This willingness to walk away signals something powerful. You value yourself. Your time and energy have weight. And paradoxically, this often prevents the need to leave, because when people realize you're serious, behavior changes. Even if it doesn't, you still gain something more valuable than a bad relationship, self-respect, and that becomes your foundation. Principle 5. Productive tension. The idea that healthy relationships must always be smooth and conflict-free is a myth. Relationships without tension aren't peaceful, they're lifeless. Productive tension is the friction that keeps a relationship dynamic and alive. It's not toxicity or constant drama. It's what happens when two strong individuals maintain their identity instead of dissolving into each other. Machiavelli understood that progress comes from friction, from opposing forces, from different perspectives clashing. Relationships work the same way. When there's no disagreement, one person is hiding their truth. The weak man who understands this doesn't fear tension. He doesn't rush to eliminate discomfort. He allows it to exist and reveal what it needs to. Sometimes it resolves naturally. Sometimes it leads to deeper conversations. And sometimes it exposes incompatibility. After conflict, the weak man rushes to fix everything immediately, even at the cost of his own truth. The strong man creates space. He allows both people to process and return with clarity. This ability to tolerate discomfort shows emotional strength. It communicates that you won't abandon your truth just to avoid conflict, and that's deeply attractive. Principle 5. Proportional investment. This principle applies Machiavellian strategy directly to relationships. Invest where there's return, withdraw when there isn't. Most men overinvest from the beginning, giving everything before knowing if the other person deserves it. They treat new connections like committed relationships, offering time, attention, and emotional depth prematurely. This either overwhelms the other person or creates imbalance. Proportional investment means starting small and increasing when it's reciprocated. In the beginning, you offer basic attention and curiosity. You observe and evaluate. If she invests too, you gradually give more. If she doesn't, you pull back. This protects your energy and creates a balanced dynamic. It shows that your presence isn't guaranteed. It must be earned. In practice, you don't reveal everything immediately. You don't restructure your life around her. You stay measured. If she shows genuine interest, you open up more. If she remains distant, you keep things light. This isn't manipulation. It's self-respect, and high-quality women recognize and respect it. Principle 7. Total self-acceptance. This is the most counterintuitive and most powerful principle of all. You must fully accept yourself, without conditions, including the parts society labels as flaws. Not to become arrogant, but to reach a level of inner stability that external validation can't shake. Most men live in self-rejection, constantly judging themselves against impossible standards. They feel shame about their desires, fears, and failures, and that shame leaks into their behavior, creating a need for approval. That need is unattractive. Total self-acceptance means recognizing your complex.
Once you hear these truths, you'll begin to realize how often you've been giving away your own value without even noticing it. And after that moment, you won't be able to unsee it. You'll start recognizing it in everything you do, and in the way she reacts to you. These are the 9 things a wise man never does. Understanding them won't just help you see women more clearly. It will give you a quiet, controlled kind of power. So take a breath. Remove every distraction. Because if you stay with me until the end of this video, you'll never feel the need to chase anyone again. Let's begin. Rule number 1. Never over-explain yourself. Most men lose their power not because they are weak, but because they try too hard to be understood. They believe words create connection, but in reality, words reveal position. Every time you justify your actions, you subtly place yourself beneath the other person, as if you're asking for permission to exist. Psychology refers to this as submissive framing, a mindset where you unconsciously signal that your worth depends on someone else's approval. Women sense this immediately, even if they can't logically explain it. When she asks why you didn't reply sooner, you think explaining yourself will ease her mind, but what she actually feels is whether you stayed centered within yourself. If your energy shifts, she doesn't feel care, she senses weakness. Machiavelli warned that a ruler should not constantly defend himself, because the more he explains, the more guilty he appears. The same principle applies here. A man who keeps explaining himself creates doubt where none existed. You don't owe the world your reasoning, you owe it your results. Say what needs to be said once, then let silence carry the rest. Silence doesn't confuse, it creates curiosity, and curiosity is the root of attraction. Real power isn't loud, it's steady. A calm man makes others question themselves. A nervous man invites others to question him. So remember this principle. The moment you start explaining yourself to gain understanding, you lose control of perception. And perception, not truth, is what shapes power. Speak less, mean every word. Never let your need to be understood outweigh your need to remain composed. Because mystery doesn't hide weakness, it creates value. Rule number 2. Never chase. Most men don't see it, but chasing is the quickest way to destroy attraction. There's a clear difference between pursuing and chasing, and that difference changes everything. Pursuit comes from purpose. It's calm, intentional, grounded. Chasing comes from fear. Fear of losing attention, fear of being forgotten. When you chase, you subtly communicate, you hold the power. I'm just trying to keep up. She feels that instantly, not through your words, but through your energy. The tone of your voice, the speed of your replies, even the tension in your messages all reveal whether you're leading or begging. In psychological terms, this is perceived scarcity. The one who chases positions himself as less valuable, because abundance never runs after validation. It waits, it chooses, it attracts. When she pulls back, delays a reply, or says she's busy, it's not always rejection. Often, it's a test of your emotional gravity. She's observing whether your world collapses without her at the center. A grounded man stays still. He doesn't double text. He doesn't negotiate for attention. Because every time you insist, you confirm that her validation is your oxygen. Machiavelli warned that a prince should never beg for loyalty. He should inspire it through presence. The same applies here. A man who commands respect doesn't run after it. Understand this. The more you chase, the faster she distances herself. The more you pull back, the more she leans in. Energy follows value, and value belongs to the one who can walk away. Wise men don't chase, they lead. They move forward only when the energy is mutual, and when it isn't, they quietly step back.
leaving behind a sense of mystery. Because the man who knows his worth never chases, he becomes the one worth chasing. Rule number 3. Don't reveal your whole life too soon. Many men confuse emotional openness with connection. They meet a woman, feel chemistry, and within days they begin sharing everything, their past pain, heartbreaks, and deepest dreams. It feels honest, even meaningful, but in reality it works against them. Mystery isn't deception, it's leverage. It's what Machiavelli described as controlled revelation. A wise man doesn't present his life like an open book. He reveals it in pieces, small intentional glimpses designed to spark curiosity rather than comfort. Every word is measured. Every silence has purpose. When you reveal everything too quickly, you remove the element of discovery. You eliminate the tension that attraction depends on. Psychologically, this creates emotional saturation. She feels like she already knows the entire story before it has even begun. And what becomes familiar too fast loses its intrigue. Real intimacy is about timing. You guide it patiently. You don't open up hoping she'll stay. You open up gradually to see if she's earned that space. The man who overshares isn't being deep, he's seeking emotional return. And that need reverses polarity. Instead of passion, she feels pressure. Instead of closeness, she feels overwhelmed. A man's story gains strength when it's protected. His silence gains value when it's intentional. The less you reveal all at once, the more she leans in, wanting to understand what lies beneath the surface. Remember this. Mysterious men aren't hiding, they're controlling how they reveal themselves. Because what is rare is respected, and what is easily known is easily forgotten. Rule number 4. Never try to change her. She may be captivating, magnetic, even intoxicating. But beneath that, she carries contradictions, emotional swings, and patterns that might tempt you to step in and fix her. You may call it love, but often it's ego. The belief that your care can reshape her nature. Machiavelli warned against trying to reform people too quickly, because they cling to their flaws as if they were strengths. The same applies here. When you try to fix her, she doesn't see strength, she feels control. And control always creates resistance. Every time you try to manage her emotions, you signal that they overpower yours. You show that she can destabilize you. And once she senses that, attraction fades. A man who is easily shaken cannot lead. A woman isn't drawn to the man who dives into her storm. She's drawn to the one who remains calm within it. She doesn't need saving. She needs to feel your steadiness while she figures herself out. Show understanding, but don't lose yourself in her chaos. Stay composed when she tests your calm. Stay quiet when she seeks drama. This isn't coldness, it's control. The ability to care without losing balance. And when she realizes that nothing can shake you, you become the calm she keeps returning to. Rule number 5. Never neglect your mission for her. It rarely happens suddenly. It starts subtly, with good intentions, long conversations, and shared moments. You meet someone who excites you, and gradually, without noticing, you begin trading discipline for comfort. Your routines slip, your goals fade into the background. The man who once had direction begins revolving around her. You may call it love, but it's the slow loss of purpose. Machiavelli warned that a ruler who forgets his mission becomes a servant to his emotions, and that's what happens here. Men abandon their ambition for temporary comfort. The moment you make her your center, you leave your own gravity. She feels it instantly. At first, she may enjoy the attention, but eventually it becomes heavy, it suffocates. No woman respects a man who abandons his path to follow hers. Your mission isn't optional, it's your foundation. It gives you direction, energy, and identity. When you trade that for validation, attraction fades. A wise man builds his life first and invites her to walk beside him, not above him. He continues pursuing his goals with the same intensity that made her notice him in the first place. Because passion without purpose becomes dependency, and dependency always leads to resentment. If she ever complains about your focus, don't argue, stay on your path. A woman who understands masculine energy doesn't compete with your purpose, she respects it. Stay committed to your direction. Because when a man is driven by purpose, everything around him aligns, including attraction. Rule number 6. Never compete for her attention. It happens quickly. You're out together and her attention shifts, even briefly. You feel that subtle tension, that fear of being replaced. So you react, you try harder, you speak louder. And in that moment, you lose your composure, the very thing that made you attractive. The moment you compete for her attention, you admit that you need it. You hand over your power without her asking. In Machiavelli terms, this is status collapse, when a man places someone else's approval of his own. A wise man doesn't compete. He understands that attention cannot be forced. It's drawn in through presence. So if she laughs with someone else, let her. If her focus drifts, remain grounded. Not jealous, not cold, just composed. Because the man who remains unaffected becomes the one she thinks about later. Rule number 7. Never make her the source of your happiness. If she becomes the reason you feel good, she will also become the reason you fall apart. Many men slowly hand over their emotional world without realizing it. They begin needing her presence, her approval, her attention to feel stable. It feels like love, but it's dependency. And dependency leads to loss of control. A wise man builds his happiness internally. His peace comes from discipline, purpose, and self-respect, not from another person's behavior. This is emotional sovereignty, the ability to remain steady regardless of external changes. When she senses that you are emotionally self-sufficient, she relaxes. But when she feels responsible for your happiness, attraction fades. A woman should add to your life, not define it. Rule number 8. Don't react emotionally to her tests. Every man has experienced it, that shift in tone, that subtle challenge. She tests your confidence, your patience, your emotional control. If you react impulsively, you lose, not because you're wrong, but because you've lost control of yourself. A wise man sees tests for what they are, moments of evaluation. He remains calm, steady, observant. He doesn't rush to defend himself. He doesn't react with emotion. He responds with control, or silence. Because silence creates uncertainty, and uncertainty creates power. When you stop reacting, something shifts. You're no longer being tested, you become the standard. Rule number 9. Never apologize for your standards. Wanting loyalty, peace, and emotional stability doesn't make you demanding, it makes you aware. Standards aren't about controlling others, they're about protecting yourself. They define what you accept and what you reject. A man who refuses to tolerate what goes against his values becomes rare, and rarity commands respect. If you constantly forgive disrespect in the name of love, you're not being kind, you're losing control. So stand firm, be respectful, but unwavering. Because the moment you apologize for your standards, you begin negotiating your worth, and a man who negotiates his worth will always lose in the end. Your peace matters, and the right woman won't challenge it, she'll respect it.